Welcome back. New evidence shows just how far our government has gone and is going to push this radical trans agenda on kids in this country. Internal documents obtained by America First Legal through litigation against HHS, Health and Human Services, reveals the Biden administration collaborated with pediatric transgender clinics to evade state bans on child sex changes, bans that take place in a lot of countries like Denmark, Finland now, Sweden, the UK. A lot of very sensible places are doing this. Your government is trying to evade them in states that are trying to apply these same measures. Emails show Biden's Assistant Secretary for Health, Rachel Levine, yes, you know exactly who that is, was involved in communications with gender-affirming care providers in states that banned puberty blockers and sex changes on little kids. Levine promised to leverage the government's power to stop these states from enacting the bans that they wanted to enact. What a twisted man. In one email from last year, Levine responds to HHS Regional Director Ingrid Ulrey regarding proposed legislation to prevent doctors from prescribing chemical castration drugs and sex change surgeries to minors. Levine writes, I share your heartfelt concern for our LGBTQI, however many letters there are, community in Idaho. We are continuing to push this issue nationally and will keep you up to date on our plans. Ian Pryor is a senior advisor at America First Legal. He found this information for us and has done a fantastic job in a number of ways. And Ian, it's good to have you back on. Tell us your suit here. What exactly are you guys trying to do?
Well, we sent a Freedom of Information Act request to Health and Human Services last year around this time. They never responded, so we had to bring a FOIA suit against them. You know, what we were really looking for were communications with Richard Levine and others about what's going on around the world, as you talked about, with a lot of these, transgender clinics starting to back off, whereas, President Biden, Vice President Harris, Richard Levine himself has said, no, full steam ahead. So we really wanted to get to the bottom of what their thought process was, and we found a few different things, some of which we released last week, some of which we released this week. Last week, it was clear that the National Institute of Health is using taxpayer money to fund, research into the disconnectivity of gender identity and sex. So our taxpayer dollars are going to, new surveys that'll be sent to people. And then this week, we released the issue where, Idaho recently legislated a ban on these horrible experimentations, right, which the Supreme Court upheld. And during that time, as they were working to ban it, we've got, Richard Levine talking to people at HHS out there discussing how the federal government, we're gonna put the full weight of the federal government behind stopping these states from banning these procedures.
It shows that somehow that these twisted people have infiltrated all the way up to the tops of this government. And common sense is coming everywhere on this issue. I mean, we're seeing all of these countries wake up and realize we're killing our kids. We're doing this to them at a young age. They end up killing themselves later on, suicide, or they have to reverse these surgeries later on. There's all these studies that show that if you just let these kids grow up, that they'll never do what they thought maybe they wanted to do when they're 10 or 12 years old. And they're ignoring all of that. And they're pushing this chaos. And I can't fathom what the reason is. But this goes all the way up to the top.
Well, it does. And you're seeing this kind of, this ideology being implemented through their new Title IX rule, which, again, is blatantly unconstitutional, is unsafe, and strips parents of their constitutional rights. But what you see here is not merely that, the federal government is engaging in this, pushing experimental science to make kids guinea pigs in this wild ideology that is dangerous and quite frankly, tragic, that we're even talking about it. But they're also, violating the very principles of our federal constitution, which is states have the power to regulate this within their state, the police power, 10th Amendment. And it looks like the federal government and the Biden administration says, we don't really want states doing things that we think, or that they think are in the best interest of their citizenry. We're going to do everything here from HHS and, Admiral Richard Levine.
Well, they're shredding so many of our norms and so much of our Constitution. I mean, this administration is scary. That's why you guys are so busy is because of all the things. I mean, look at what they're trying to do to the First Amendment, what they want to do to the Second Amendment. I mean, it just goes right down the list. Ian Pryor, we appreciate you coming on from America First Legal.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.